What's up YouTube? In today's video, I'm going to try something a little different. So this is going to be a long form live build out of a Webflow site that I'm working on right now for a client. So this isn't really going to be a tutorial style, but do feel free if you have questions, if I have time to answer them, put them in the chat. I'll try to get to as many of them as I can. And then yeah, this whole process is just going to be a live build out of this site that I'm working on right now for a client. So I already started on some of it. I got a little bit of the home page done. Thank you so much, appreciate it. And then I'm working on pretty much the bottom part of this. So working on the missions page, which I'll go ahead and show you kind of the screen. So working on this about part, working on the footer. Thanks so much, Alan. And I'm going to just kind of build this out live. So if you have time, if you want to hang back and kind of build this out with me, let's do this. So I have a little bit of this done so far. Let's see. This is where I left off, and then I think some of this is all CMS enabled, which is good. And I think my next part, I was going to animate this, so I get this question a lot. How do you animate these photos when you scroll into view? So what I basically have is a container called about image that's has a width and a height defined, and that height's being defined by the flexbox parent that's kind of stretching it. So if I was to dump a ton of more content in this box here, you'll see that image grows with it. So it's great to just think about this, like if your client was to break the site, try and make it as unbreakable as possible. But yeah, so in there I have this about image. Inside that container I have this about photo, which is the thing that actually houses the photo. And like if I start backing down the height, you'll see it has a background color. So what I could do is whenever we scroll into view, just have this photo slide up to 100% height. So we'll get this nice effect like it's just wiping up, and we'll see a little bit of the color. Now what I want to use for my trigger for this is the actual image container, because I don't want to use this whole section, because I don't want the animation to start when the section starts. I want it to start when this image comes into view. That's really important on mobile, because if I were to stack this image under this text on mobile, this animation might trigger before we even see this image, if this whole section was my trigger. So think about what you need your trigger to be. In this case, it's my about image. I'm going to add a trigger of scroll into view, and then I'm going to apply this to the class. So if I ever reuse this section on another page, it's always going to have this animation here. So I'm going to do the first start, scroll into view, and I like to keep this somewhat organized. So I'll call this about section photo, so I at least know what it is and what's happening here. And then I'll grab the actual photo, and then we want to set its initial state. So this is using size. So we're going to use 100% width and then 0% height. And it's kind of snapped to the bottom. That's because its parent is using Flexbox to anchor it down to the bottom. That way it grows from the bottom. And I'll set this as my initial state. So this is how it needs to start off. Then the size, we'll just come over here and set the width to 100% and then the height to 100%. So this is where it's going to grow. And then I really like to play with the easings. Usually an out easing works really nice for this kind of thing. I find it's really smooth. So you could do out back, which is just going to make it grow past the limit and then shrink back down. Probably not best for this use case. I find myself using out court a lot just because it's this really nice smooth effect. And 0.5 is probably good for that. So now if we save this and then we scroll back up a little bit, and then I'm going to just scroll down into view. And it did swipe a little too soon, like you barely caught the end of it. So what we could do is add a little bit of an offset, which means it's not going to start as soon as this enters the top of the view, but about maybe like 25%, 30% through, then it will start sort of make this swipe. So let's try that again. I need to scroll up and then preview. Yeah, so now I'm catching a little bit more of it. I could increase that a little bit more, but again, just keep in mind your mobile states, because usually you're seeing more of the screen on mobile, because the screen is more of a portrait and less of a horizontal. So you don't want this offset to be too far, but I'll try and bump it up just a little bit. And then you notice too, the second time I scrolled down, nothing actually happened with this photo. It only triggered once. So if I want this to trigger again, I'll have to queue up the when scrolled out of view. And then this time, we're going to duplicate this animation. I find if you duplicate it, it just makes your life a lot easier. You're not having to reinvent the wheel each time. So I'll just call this one out because the first one was in. And then I want to set the size back to how it started, 0% width. And then, 0% height. And because this is only going to happen when we scroll out of view, we're not even going to see this. So the duration doesn't matter. In fact, I'll just set it to 0 seconds. So it's instant. The only reason I'm setting up this out animation is so that it queues again when I scroll back into view. Let's see. Thanks so much for your recent tutorial. Super easy to follow. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Yes, I definitely plan to try and make this available. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, so when we scroll back, it works. All right. And then we come back up and it works again. So now it's triggering every time. Totally personal preference, whatever you want, but it's working both times. So that's good for me. And honestly, that's all I really want to do with this section. I might add some text animation later or something, but I haven't fully decided yet. Let me see. I have a couple events in here, but I think one of them is past the current date, maybe. So the start date, the end date is 11/8, 11/1, yeah. So what's cool about the way these events are set up is that whenever the event is over, the day after the event happens, it's automatically taken down from the site. And that's just using this filter that says, end date is after or equal to today, so or after or equal to 0 days in the past. So once that event's over, the day after, it's just not going to appear here using that filter. So that way they're only seeing up-to-date events. Let's see. So I think that is pretty much it for that section. The last piece I need to build out is the footer. I have these nice gradients going on here. So I have this class I've been using for everything called section, and then inside that I have another class called container. What I'm going to do for this section is I'm going to add a combo class. And if you ever followed BEM naming conventions, basically anytime you add a combo class, you type is for is dash dash and then the name of your combo class, and that just lets you know really easily what that class is used for. So in this case I'm going to say is footer, and then I know this is definitely a combo class applied to my section. It's just a specific way to write it. But then I can give that a background color and it's not going to affect my other sections because of that combo class. And then I may even want to position that section to relative. I think it already is. Cool. And then I'm going to have these gradients kind of hanging over the side. So I want this section to be overflow hidden. That way when I drop the gradients in, it's being cut off from the sides. So I already have these gradients. Basically a good rule is don't repeat yourself. If you made something that you can reuse, definitely reuse it. And I have these gradients in this other section, so I'm going to reuse it for this section. And that's going to help especially on mobile when I go to start stacking things and resizing these gradients. It'll resize in both sections once I do it in one. Thanks so much. Appreciate it. Let's see. So I have those two gradients in. You can't really see much right now. For now, I'm just going to set a minimum height on this container. So this container is going to be is footer as well for now, just so we can see what's going on. Let's do minimum height of 30 EM. All right, we got some gradients going, and then I just have, I think, a red over here, a reddish, and then a bluish right there. So what I can do is I have gradient top right, gradient bottom right. I'll duplicate this gradient, duplicate the class. This would be gradient bottom left. and then it would be anchored to the bottom left. And then for here, I'm using EMs for everything just to like make it scale really well. So if you checked out my recent video on like responsive typography and scaling, that's pretty much the method I'm using here for these. So I'm going to remove these paddings, these margins there. Don't really need them there. And then we got one more, so I'll duplicate this one and duplicate the class. And this will be, so this will be top left, and anchor it to the top left. Negative 20 EM. Just gonna kind of offset it into that corner. And because this section is full width on really large screens, these gradients will go all the way to the edge of the screen. Let's see, so then I'm gonna kind of reposition that there and there. And then let's change the color to red. So I'm using 19% opacity for this part of it, and then for the end part, 0%, just so it's a nice fade. All right. Thanks so much, Brian. So I have that gradient there. That looks great. I think that's everything I need for that. So now I just need to get these links in, and I believe they're using my H4 style. So what I can do is, let's see, drag in the link block, and this goes back to BEM naming convention too. You name things by components. So like this whole section is my footer component, but a piece inside of it is just an element inside the overall component. So I do an underscore and the word link, because this is my element inside the footer. So that way you're not naming everything on your site link 1, link 2, link 3. Like, like this is the hero link, this is the nav link, this is the footer link. You're being a little more specific, and that underscore to separate things just keeps things nice and tidy. So then I'll just drag in this heading, and that actually, I can copy it, delete, that needs to go inside the link, which right now my gradients are overlapping everything. So that's going to be interesting. My gradients are, so since this has a class of isFooter, I'll set it to relative and give it a z-index of like 20. That way it sits above those gradients, and we can actually see and click on things. This whole footer link will change to this white color that I have. Yeah, that's pure white. And then H4 for the styles. For now, I'll just throw in these sort of headings. Go here. And then just in case I need it, you never know, usually you don't, but I'll just put footer underscore link dash text. So this is the link text in case I need to do something with that, maybe animate it or who knows. Duplicate all these, and then I can start piling them up. So I think this goes get involved, yeah, comes next. Updates. Let's do partners, and duplicate again. The next one is contact, and one more I believe is give now. And for that, I'm actually going to have anything that's like an external link. I want like an arrow attached, so I already have that in my menu. If I go ahead and open up my menu, which is, let's see, there it is. I'll set this to display block for now, just so we can see it. So I have this little arrow. It's inside an out arrow container. I can actually just use that. Should work perfectly. So let me go ahead and set my menu back to display none. Let's see. I'll come back over here and then paste that inside this link. So this is an SVG I pasted in, and if you use the variable current, lowercase current capital color, it's going to inherit the color of its parent div. So that's great if you want to animate the SVG, change its color. I already have this I'm using in the nav, so I'll just give this a combo class of, again, you guessed it, is footer, and then I can change the text color to red, and that's going to change the SVG color for me. Then also I can grab the overall link block and do Flexbox, and that way these are kind of side by side, and that's looking pretty good. And then I want to stack these in 2 columns basically, so I need to grab a div. This will be called footer, and then this is where it gets a little interesting. I'll do footer underscore link contain, and this will contain my first 3 links, and then I'll need 2 of these. So let's see, paste in this one, that one, that one, that works for that, and then this one, that one, and that one. So they're in 2 separate containers. And I really have 2 pieces to this. I have the footer top and the footer bottom. So I'm going to need another div called footer underscore top. And then inside that I can put the 2 footer containers. And then I'll use footer top to do Flexbox. And then I'll anchor this to the top for now, and then align side by side. That's perfect. I may give these a little bit of bottom margin using EMs again. And for now, I'm just going to distribute these to get them off to the side. And then let's see, I also have this sort of subscribe box. So I can go ahead and start building that out. They're going to want to connect that to MailChimp eventually, but for now I'll just say footer underscore subscribe. And then it can get tricky to think like where should you name things, like where should subscribe be its own component. My rule of thumb is like if you're using the subscribe block on a different page or a different section on the site, then you would want to make this its own module, like its own component that you could just pull out. So instead of saying footer underscore subscribe, you would say subscribe underscore heading, subscribe underscore paragraph. But because the only place I'm using this is my my actual footer, this should be fine to keep it as a child of the footer with my class naming. So this is in H4 as well. Just copy that, paste it in here, remove that. Really the whole, instead of making every single piece of text that I drag in here white, that's gonna add a lot of styles that I really don't need. I can grab the whole container and set the text color to white here, and now any text I drag inside here will automatically be white, so I don't have to add a bunch of new classes. So then I can drop in some paragraph text and maybe give that a different size. And then this was at 70% opacity, so this is where I might do footer subscribe P for paragraph, and then change that back down to 70%, and then I can drag in my form. So let's see, drag in a form block. We'll go right here, and then this is probably what I'm gonna make its own component. I don't think I'll be using anywhere else, but I'm gonna start just with I'm gonna have multiple forms, so this will be a subscribe form, subscribe underscore form, and I'm gonna take these out for now, and then the form container, the thing inside it, would be subscribe underscore contain, and that's gonna actually have Flexbox, so I can put these all side by side. Then I'll have a subscribe underscore field for my form field. Just apply that to both. And if we look at the example, this border needs to wrap around all of them. So I'll probably apply that. Let me zero out this default 10 pixel padding at the bottom of the Webflow form. I'll probably apply that border here. So I might set it to like 2 pixels or something, and border color with my color. And then this would be subscribe underscore button. And again, my color. And then we'll do a radius of 50%. So that way it just, sorry, I'm gonna do 100 viewport width just to make sure, like, no matter what size I make it, it's always that pill sort of shape. And then I'll do radius of 100 viewport width on that as well, on that container. The field, I'm gonna set its color to transparent. I'm gonna set its borders to 0 pixels for now. That should be okay. The subscribe text should say that. Let's see, and then the text inside, so I'm gonna have some placeholder text of full name, and this is required for the name field, and then email address for the second one, required and email, cool. And then let's see, we can even grab the whole form and add a little bit of padding inside of it, maybe 2em, just to get it away from that text. 0 pixels padding on the bottom, just close that out. This button, I'm gonna add some padding using ems as well. So maybe a little less here, more there. Let's see. Then I have a line. So what I can do for this is give this second field a combo class of isSecond, and that way I can give it that sort of left line, 2 pixels, maybe this grayish color for that. Actually it was white at 36% opacity. So I'll just do that here. Let's do 36. Cool. That is working out all right. So I may have a little bit of padding inside these. And that should be okay. It's pretty close. Maybe increase the border a little bit. Border radius can go up a little more. And I think that's pretty close to what I had. May add a little bit of margin. This border is kind of looking weird. I never saw anything like that before. It's thicker here and it's thinner at the top, and I don't really know what's going on with that. Can you guys see that? It might be just that I can't use Webflow's native container for the border, so maybe I'll zero that out. And yeah, wow, the whole way it was set was weird. It's like not applied as borders as a whole. It's applied to each one of these. So I think I'm just gonna have to drag another div in that container. Some of these default Webflow things just act kind of weird sometimes. Subscribe, border, why not? And that will be flex, and that will be radius of 100 viewport width. Let's see if it lets me. It might have been the way I had this set, I don't know, but just for good measure, just drag in a clean example. Subscribe. Cool and cool. So I like to preview and just compare this stuff to my like XD prototype, so I can see this stuff side by side and see like how's the spacing look, what did I miss, what needs to be changed. This button actually needs an arrow, so I'm going to add that as a background image. and I should have it right here. I can make it anchored to the side, custom size, no tile, width would be, I don't know, EM. So it would be about the size of the text, and then we can anchor it from the left, just back it out a little. And then to offset that, I can just add a little extra padding on this side to basically achieve the same effect. And then that partners needs to say this. And let's see, this whole container is going to have a lot more padding top and bottom than some of my other sections. For responsivity. Oh yeah, why do I use EMs for everything? Yeah, if you go look at, let's see, I have a tutorial up right now, actually, just released it. It really helps with understanding some of this. Responsive Typography 2020, if you look at that video, it's basically gonna explain this a little better, but everything scales like a unit. So like everything's locking. You see this text isn't wrapping or breaking onto new lines like we'd typically see or expect. So my design is pretty much staying solid. Now at a certain screen size, like say 3000 pixels wide, I have a max width on all these containers of, let's see, my max width is pretty much 1440 pixels. So at that size, 1440 pixels, I'm just changing my body font size to whatever pixels it's supposed to be at that size, if that makes sense. 1.3, it's viewport width right now, so it's all scaling. Once it gets to that max width, I change the body font size to pixels, and that means everything else that was EMs is now pixels at that larger breakpoint. So I don't have to go back and change everything one by one. It's all being inherited from the body. So it makes like scaling things really smooth, really easy. So I think that is good for that section. I did notice like these were grouped a little bit closer together, so this is where you have to get a little bit picky about this. So footer top left, and then inside this footer top left, I'm going to drag in my two footer top links containers. So it takes a lot of divs sometimes to get things looking the way you want them to. And I'll anchor this to the top in the corner, and I'll grab the whole container. And I like using paddings in this instance for one reason. It's easier to grab the container. Like if I were to use margins, it's a little bit harder to select the container. I have to select the text and stuff. So that's the only reason I use padding instead of margin right here. Let me just go and compare this stuff side by side again. So I need a lot more padding in between the lines of text. I could go with a little bit more padding in between these. So this is where I just had to eyeball it and just kind of get it as close as possible to my original design. That's close. Good enough. And then this subscribe bar needs to be like a lot wider, I'm noticing. So golly, this stuff is off. Alright, so we'll make this smaller for starters. Oh my goodness, what did I do? That was terrible. Okay. And then we'll make this a little bit wider off the sides. And then what I could do even is set a width using EMs again. And that way it kind of just forces this to be the wider sort of thing. Let me see how I was anchoring these two. Yeah, this was anchored to the top, like it's all aligned to the top, so that's looking okay. I think I need a lot more space in between my lines of text, more padding in between my form fields. Yeah. Alright, so these, I need to make sure not to affect my combo class because that could really mess some things up. And then even here, I think these were a bit wider or supposed to be a bit taller. And then here, a little bit more padding off the top. Margin, a little bit more padding here. A friend of mine taught me this, like you keep your, just as a general design rule, it doesn't always have to be this way, but you keep your headings and paragraphs closer, and then instead of having equal space between your heading and paragraph, you do a little bit more between the like button or form or component beneath it. So it just groups these together a little closer than you see the form field or whatever you're using. That is looking better. Subscribe was bold. Just being super nitpicky here. Let's see. So subscribe, need it to be bold. This still need it to be more padding. Or medium. Medium's fine. Okay, moving on from that. I think I spent enough time on that for now. Let's do the footer underscore bottom. And we will go ahead and build out this part. So I just need a top bar. I think that top bar was, let's see, 2 pixels at 12% opacity of white. 12%. Okay, and then I'll just add some padding inside of it, top and bottom. And then in there, I'm gonna have my my paragraph, and I should have a P2 class. No, I don't. Okay, so I do need this to be a little bit smaller than your typical paragraph, and I have another one just like it. So these two need to be smaller sizes. I think what I can do for that is just 1EM is the default body font size. If I decrease that, I can make all paragraphs inside this container smaller without having to create like a new class, which is exactly what I need to do here. And then let's grab the copyright and let's make this a link, and I'll give this class of footer copyright, link it out to my website, and I'll make sure this opens in a new tab so they're not leaving the client site, and make the font color white and just make it slightly bolder than what it was before. I can grab the whole footer bottom and do flex, center, distribute to anchor those to the corners, and then I just need the social media icons in the center. So I'm gonna actually create a group for those probably. This will be footer underscore social because I have other socials, and then inside that I'll have a link block of footer underscore social link, and then from there I can have the icon, which in this case I'll just drag it in Instagram, footer underscore social icon. Alright, so the link is going to be, I don't know, 2EM by 2EM, maybe a little bit larger. Maybe we'll do 3 and 3. And then the background color will be this bluish. The radius will be 50%. I'll apply a flex box to center the icon inside it. And the icon, I'm actually don't need a max width. It's just going to be a percentage width of its parent. That way, if I change the size of the outer circle on mobile, the icon inside will scale up. I won't have to change both sizes. Can just do one and they'll both change. Let me go ahead and duplicate this, and let me change this out to be, I think email is what I had, yeah. And then let me grab the parent of them both, do flexbox, and do that. And then I'm gonna do margin left and right on them. That way, like, it doesn't mess up my center alignment. That way it's perfectly centered. And I think that's close. I mean, definitely is gonna need some touch-ups here and there for sure. but it's probably close to my original design. And then I think I'm gonna do less bottom padding on the footer. Let's see, less, not more. Oh, I have this min height. I'm gonna go ahead and remove that min height now. And then I also have this section I was just using as a spacer. I'm gonna go ahead and delete that. Don't need that anymore. Cool. This will give me a better idea of what my footer is actually looking like. So that is better. Let's see what we have. Wow, not too far off. I mean, it still has a little bit of, still could use a little bit of tweaking, but it's actually pretty close. Yeah, I could make the circles slightly bigger, I think. Slightly larger. 3.2 or something. And then on hover, maybe we just make these, what should we make these? I have this blue that I've been using as a hover state that I kind of like just because it's so bright and different from everything. And then transition will be applied to all properties just in case I decide to change something out. Outcourt, my favorite easing for this. And then, yeah, that works. That works. This all works. I need some margin, or I guess I could add some padding off the bottom of this top one. More. This is where it gets a little tedious. And I mean, it's close, I would say. This, let's see, when we scroll all the way down, I may have slightly too much padding on what? The top maybe. Yeah, because these are aligning in about the same place, but it's like the top might have a little too much padding of the whole footer. So I'll back that down a little. That's good. One thing that I usually forget to do is success and error states. Those are kind of a pain sometimes, but I may just style this to kind of look. So this was what? This was the subscribe. Subscribe message. Oops, I guess success. Alright, and here I'll do radius, round it all off. Background color of blue, yeah, why not? And then make sure to change all these pixel paddings to EM paddings. And then for my error state, that's kind of a rough error. Let's see. Subscribe error. Let's see, let's do that, zero out the padding. Let's do no background color, and let's change the text color to red. Yep, that works. That works for me. So I think that's it for the form. It's looking pretty good. So I wonder if I want hover states on these. No, maybe, I don't know yet. Let's see, maybe on hover, I might change the color to this light blue for now and just leave it at that. Okay, that's cool. That's all working. I think from there, I might want to just... So in my menu, I'll go ahead and publish my site and check it out. I got a couple things on the live site that you're not going to quite see in the designer just because I have some custom code going on. So like these text animations, I did a tutorial on those a while back. And slide in, I have this menu where whenever you open it up, you kind of can move from left to right with your cursor. And then I have a blur. If you look in my my Notion code, I have some custom code for a blur where you can blur a div. So under these, when the text moves under the shapes, you're getting sort of that blur effect. And then you can also use a little bit of custom code to kind of change the shape of them to rectangles or whatever else. These also are kind of just hover. When you hover over, the arrows rotate and change colors, so that's where using that custom SVG helps, because you're able to change the color on hover. And I also have blending modes on the nav, so the logos being inverted like is when we get into sections like these, so it's just a little bit easier to see it than if it was just a black logo on a dark section. So that's a couple things. I don't foresee them adding like more of these pages in the future, but I do see them maybe wanting to change like some of these links, like if their Instagram ever changed or Give Now. So it's not, I don't think it's super easy to do this from the designer or editor if you're not familiar with Webflow, just because like this is set to display none by default and stuff. So I may make a collection. I usually use a collection pretty often, just called general info, and I put whatever I want to reference in there just to make it a little bit easier on the client. That way I can pull that in multiple places. So I might have like Instagram URL as one of them, make that required. I may have like a give URL for another one. And what were some of the others? I had their homepage of their main site. So Cornerstone home URL. And what's anything else that I think they may want to change later on? Contact shouldn't change. I think those are the main ones. Did I get Give Now in there? Yeah, I did. Give. And then I can use those same fields down here. That way if they change it once, it's just going to change it in both places. So it's just going to make it really easy for them if they need to change multiple things. I may come back and add to this later, but that is probably good for now. So I can just get those URLs. I can get that give URL, for instance. Let's just say general info, Give Now URL. Oop, I forgot to make that one required. Let's see, can get the Instagram URL and the home page of the main site. That works. And let's go ahead and make this one required. Save. What I can do is drag in a collection list. Now the only bad thing about dragging in a list into something like the footer like this is you can't use it on a 404 page. You can't have any collection list in a 404 page. So I'm just going to have to create like a design that doesn't require the footer in it. So general info. Oh yeah, thanks for the compliment on the menu. Let's see, so general info, we're gonna limit the item to only show one. So like if they were to add, this is again going back to dummy proof in your site if your clients were to break it. Like if they were to accidentally add two general infos, like maybe they thought, I want to update this, let me just create a new one. I don't want two duplicates of my form down here, so I need to make sure to limit this just to one. And also if they were to delete all the general infos, I don't want this empty state. So usually I have something called is hidden empty that I just use, and it's just 0 pixel height, 0 padding, transparent background, and it just hides that empty state on collection forms that I don't want an empty state in. So then from there, I can just go ahead and grab the footer top and footer bottom. Actually, I might, yeah, I'm gonna put it inside the container, and I'll drag the collection item. Both of these go in the collection item. So now from there, I can get the URL of this Give Now from the Give Now URL, open a new tab. I can get the URL of their Instagram. Let's see, get URL from the Instagram, open a new tab. That way they can change this pretty easily. And then I will just need to do that for the menu too. So the menu, if we come over here, let's go ahead and have menu, display block. I really only need it in these bottom pieces. That's where it's going. So I think I can just drag in a collection list. It would have been smart of me to just copy the whole list instead of having to redo this, but here we go. General infos. I just noticed it said infos. That's dumb. I'll change it. Limit items to only show one again. And then for my empty state, remove that. Same process. Add my combo class of is hidden empty. And then for my default state, normal, then can go over here. Menu links is the container, so inside these items I just want to drag each one of my links. So oh wait, undo. Did I have them in some sort of, no I didn't. I was getting a little confused. I didn't have them in some sort of wrap. Okay. Let's just drag them each in one after the other. And okay. And then this menu small links. What I can do is just copy that class, because this is kind of unnecessary having to, I'll delete that and apply the menu small links to the collection item. That way they are flexed. I'm not having to create extra classes. Give now is, again, get URL from give now, Instagram, get URL from Instagram, cornerstone home. Okay, now if they update it in one place, it'll update in the menu and the footer for them, and they don't have to worry about digging into this menu and breaking stuff to change things. That is everything for the home page. Wow, that wasn't too bad. I think I need to work on making this responsive next. Let me compare eye to eye. This footer again. Yeah, my footer was a lot taller. Like it was 100% VH in my prototype. I'm just realizing, I don't know why I didn't notice that before. What I'm gonna do is, let's see, I'm gonna set a min height of 100 VH. So if this content exceeds that on mobile, or if they dump a new content into it, it's not gonna hurt anything. I'll set a flex box of vertical, so they stack one on top of the other, stretch, center. So now this footer will always be 100 VH of, yeah. The only thing I have to keep in mind is, let's see, on really large screens, look how stupidly huge 100 VH is, like on a bigger monitor. So that's going to be an issue. I wonder if max height would work. If I can set a max, no, because min height overrides max height. I may have to just suck it up and be okay with the 100 VH for the actual height instead of using min. It's not best practice, but I think I'm gonna do it, and that way I can set my max height on this one. So yeah, all right, that should do the trick. I think that works. Okay, now I just need to make this responsive, so this should be the fun part. I mean, if everything's done correctly, this should be easy. So because I'm using viewport width, you'll notice everything is like just scaling down, kind of like a unit. There's like, it's getting a little too small, so I'm gonna have to switch, either increase the viewport width on tablet, or switch this to pixels, or do something here to make it kind of work better. So on this breakpoint, I may just switch it to pixels. Let's think this through. Let me try and keep it viewport width for here. So I'll just increase the size a little bit. 2, yeah, that's fine. How's it scaling? Kind of interesting. Let's come look at some of these other sections. Yeah, I'm gonna have some issues. You know what? I'm just gonna keep it pixels. So we'll switch it to, what was my body font size? I think it was 20 pixels, but 20 is very large. 16 is usually good, like for, you don't want to go any smaller than 16. So this sort of is display. Let me duplicate this one and remove. So these combo classes are just to animate the letters one by one. I'm going to remove that for now and set this to viewport width again. Just that way it's not going to break on a new line. It's just going to keep getting smaller. Here, again, still getting smaller. And then here it's a little too small, so I'm going to have to increase the font size. But it can use viewport width. And then that line height is really large, I find. I might back that down here. I think I had that set up for the animation. Did I? No? I guess not. Yeah, let me increase the size a little bit. So now it should just scale. It's not too bad. Yeah, that's good. Oops, deleted the wrong one. Meant to delete this one. Cool. That's looking good there. This is good here. These shapes are still okay. Things are really falling apart here, so I think I'm going to stack the button underneath the heading. So I'll just switch this back to block. And then this button, let's see, I have a heading button H. Okay. I'll give this some bottom margin because this is a class I'm using anytime I'm using like this section where a heading and a button stack side by side, this will be the class I'm using, so I can just do that. Hey, do you always use max width 1440 on your projects, or is it relative depending on the project? It's really relative depending on the project. Some projects I don't even set a max width. Like if you look at Project Turntable, which is the agency I work for, we released this pretty recently. If you look at this on a really large screen, you'll notice it never has a max width. It just keeps scaling infinitely, and that's really good because it could look kind of silly to just set a max width on a design like this and have some empty space on both sides. And even though like the buttons are pretty large on bigger screens, it looks okay. Like it's not obnoxious. So it really depends on your design. Some designs you'll want to set different max widths. Some designs you won't even need a max width. It's totally up to you. But yeah, and then also I guess it would depend on like analytics of that particular client. Like what do their users typically view the site at? What screen sizes? Because if for some weird reason they're viewing it at 1,500 pixels, you wouldn't want those, I don't know, 60 pixels of empty space on each side when you could have just made it span the full width. So just keeping things like that in mind is probably smart. Here, I was thinking it could be cool to like make these scrollable. I think that could be kind of cool. So what I might do, let me think this through. So I got 4.2 EMs for the margin here. So what I can do is on the collection wrapper, negative margin of 4.2 EM, and then I can set the width to 100 viewport width. Now usually that would be bad. Usually that would cause some horizontal scrolling because 100 viewport width doesn't take into account scroll bars and stuff. But I have everything on my site wrapped into an overflow container with a width of 100% and overflow hidden, so I don't have to really worry about things hanging off the edge and kind of breaking with this horizontal scroll. That's another reason why like this circle like this can hang off the side. It's not going to cause any sort of scrolling, but on larger screens you're actually going to get to see the circle. It's not getting cut right there, and that's because this overflow is outside of the section container and it's 100% width. So if this circle were lightly overhanging this container, we're still not going to get some awkward scrolling because of this wrapper right here. So I like to just use that wrapper a lot for different things. But now that I have this section, it's working pretty good. My padding here was 4.2 EMs. What I can do, and what I really needed to do before I did this, because I plan to use this list on another page. I think I have a updates page in my XD. No, it's in it's a get involved page. So this is I'm gonna have a grid view. So I really don't want to mess up this class here. So what I should have done before I started doing all this was create a combo class. So I'll just do that. Is homepage, and then now I can do that. What was it? 4.2. So my wrapper, negative 4.2 EMs, and then my width of 100 viewport width, and then the list itself, which is this here, can have an overflow of scroll. So now we can just scroll from side to side inside this list. And then it's going to need margin of 4.2 EMs to get it to align. I'm sorry, not margin, padding, to get it to align right there. And then these items, these items can be tricky. So instead of using margin of 2 EM, because it's getting cut, we're not seeing that margin. I can't scroll any further. I'm going to have to set the margin to 0 and do padding of 2 EM. Let's see. And now I can see that it's got that padding right there. And it's not even 2 EM, it's 4.2 EM. My bad. Oops, no, I can't do that because, yeah, so it's not going to be perfect, but it's okay if it has a little less padding. Also, we're getting this really annoying scroll bar here for, so I just want to remove that scroll bar, so I'm going to use a little code. So I'll copy this collection list class, the thing that has the overflow scroll set, and I'll go over to the custom code, which I keep all my custom code in a symbol. You could have put it in your project settings, but I like keeping it in a symbol on the page, so I'm seeing these changes live. And then I also have this kind of broken up, so like site-wide changes are here. That way I can look for my site-wide stuff. Homepage only code is here. And I mean, yeah, this is affecting all the pages, but this is just for my own sanity to keep things organized. So I kind of know, you know, let's see. Oh, Notion. Let me do search for my code real quick. I like to, this is open to you too if you want to use my Notion page. I have all this code in here, so if you just search for what you're looking for, like if I type in scroll bar, I can copy this scroll bar code. That's going to remove the scroll bar for me, and it is going to have to go right after my class name. And now, because it's in an embed on the page, I should be able to see as I scroll, that scroll bar is gone. So I'm kind of seeing these changes in real time, which is really nice. I may need to increase the width because when I added this padding, it actually made the width of these items a lot smaller by 2 EM. So I need to increase this by 2, so that would be 3. 3. Cool. So now we got some little bit of scrolling, and actually, what I want to do, like, I don't want the client to ever see this, because then they might not know that they can scroll if they don't see a little bit of a card hanging out. So for this homepage module specifically, I'm probably going to set the width using viewport width. So let's see, 30 viewport width. It can be pretty wide, like I'm okay with that. 52 and 52. And this, let's see if this, I may need to change some other stuff, yeah. So it is a little wide, that's okay. But at least now we're always seeing that card get cut off, so we always know we can scroll. And here, it's getting a little too small again, so I'm gonna have to increase that width again. Maybe 82 and 82, and that's looking good. Let's see, yep, it's always working. And then even here, we start to lose it. So here I'm gonna need, my containers are getting way too tight, I think. Even here, I probably could have reduced my container size. So the great thing is because all my sections have the same container class, adjusting one of them is going to adjust all of them. So I will kind of back this down some just because it was a bit much. So I will kind of back this down some because it was a bit much. 1.4 EM. So I need to make sure to adjust this negative 1.4 EM. That should bring that back. And then even the padding inside this 1.4 EM. Okay. That's looking better. Definitely not so harsh anymore. And even here, I think here what I'm going to do is set the padding to viewport width. That way it kind of scales with the browser size. And that will be better, I think. Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty good. I don't think anyone's going to look at it that tight, that small, but yeah, because we're getting kind of a weird sort of wrap when the text stack. I'm noticing that. So what I should have done is this list, instead of anchoring it to the center, I'll go back to desktop, anchor it to the top. That way if this text does ever like wrap onto other lines, at least the images will always be aligned with each other towards the top. And I may even add, I don't know if I need padding here. I think it's okay. I may just increase this slightly and increase this slightly. Just give us a little bit more breathing room. That is looking okay, I want to say. So now this section is a mess. Ooh-wee. Alright, this is going to be an interesting one to figure out. So I think this text is scrolling up, and it really needs to scroll horizontally. So for that, I'm going to have to change something. So if I'm going to have to get a media query first of all. So let's do media. I'll clear this out. Media query. And this is my code for media query right here. And let's see. So we can go into this code. So this on the under the home page, this is where I need to kind of just say, let's see, all this homepage animation stuff I need to create a media query for. So the tablet size is 991 is the largest tablet will go. So let's see. So this needs to say the minimum width would be 992. That way it only shows up on desktop, and then I can take all my animation code, copy it, delete it from there, and then inside that media query paste, and then save. So now no animation here, but animation on desktop all the way down to the smallest breakpoint, which is this 992, and it's still moving. Okay, so now I need to rearrange quite a few things. Partners, this sections, I have two columns set side by side. I really want this text to appear on top and then this text to appear on bottom. So this is where Flexbox comes in handy. You gotta love Flexbox. So I can switch this to vertical. That way these stack on top each other now instead of side by side. And then I can hit this reverse order switch. So that way this content appears first and then these appear second. And then this has its own text, its own class. EMs, I want to set the class, set the size using viewport width, and then I want to grab the list. These are all pulling from collection lists, by the way. Yeah, and then is the text that scrolls CMS custom code? Yeah, so it is custom code. It's if we go to Webflow, CSS, marquees, someone actually created a really cool clonable that we can use for this Webflow CSS. Yeah, it's this one right here. So just Google it. But basically, I'm gonna want to on mobile. So I was using this one on desktop where they kind of slide up, but on mobile I'm going to want to change it to this one. So I can just open up the code for that, and this is that code. So what I can do is copy that, because I'm going to keep that for this. First step is I have two collection lists that are exact duplicates of each other. That way it creates a seamless loop. So I want to grab the list. I want to use Flexbox on them to get them all side by side, align to center, justify left. They're kind of forcing the text to wrap. So what I want to do is do breaking no wrap. That way it forces them not to. And then the collection list. So there's two collection lists side by side. I need to grab their parent, which is this one here, and do flex to get those two lists to stack side by side. And then here I don't need that EM. I'll leave that for now. I'll add some margin using viewport this time, because my font size is going to be viewport, so that everything scales. Yeah, like I want a little bit of the next word to be seen at a time, so that's probably good. And then let's see what I need to change in my custom code. Alright, so if I open this up and I go over to my animation, the main thing I think, like, I don't really need the time to change, I don't think. I don't need any of this absolute to change. I just need the direction to change. So this keyframes part. So honestly, this first half I can just delete. And so what I could do is keep this this code out of the media query, so that way it applies to all screen sizes, and that way it's right there. And then the media query stuff is happening right here, and then this is what all other sizes should do, is move to the side. Let's test my theory. Oof. Alright, that didn't work the way it was supposed to, so I may need a media query after all. Alright, let's see, what are we moving? Maybe, yeah, let me go ahead and just create two media queries for now, and then if I don't need it, I'll come back and remove it. So this one will be max width of 991, so we're only affecting tablet. And then that is where I would actually want this keyframe class right here. So then that should do the trick. Let me just put this back in each one. I don't know if that matters, but just in case it does, I'll put these in here. Partner slide move is what I'm moving, which should be, where is it? Partner slide move, this thing. It's being positioned absolute. Its parent is relative. Its parent might need a height. Let's see. Sure enough, its parent needed a height. But we're still not getting any sort of move happening. Partner slider move. This is absolute. It has no width effect whatsoever. This one is, it does have negative EMs that I'll remove. Its width can be 100% of its parent, but that's not working because I have 100% of its parent, because this has padding that I need to remove. Is my desktop one still working? Desktop is definitely still working, so that's interesting. Partners slide move and partner slide. Alright, this is my class. I'm trying to get it to move horizontally on this breakpoint only. Partner slide move. 911 is the max width, so this is tablet only. This marquee is affecting, The simplest thing sometimes. So this one was called marquee horizontal. This one was called marquee vertical, the animation name. So let me just make sure they're both the same name. And bam. Okay, and it's a good thing that I made these two separate animations anyway, because look how fast that's moving. I'm really gonna have to slow this down for this horizontal version, just because that's like super fast. So I may double this to like 40 seconds, and if I need to change it later I can. It's still fast, like golly, look at that. And let's make this larger, just like stupid large, and more margin. Yeah, that looks good. I guess it's okay at this speed. I mean, I may change it later, I don't know. This partner's text, I had a width set. I'm going to change that to 100% width. And then these sort of modules, I have some like this. Partner, So I'm going to have like modules like this where it's like contained in a card that's full width, and I'm gonna need some sort of padding set. Like I really want to be able to reuse that class, like say this instance, but I don't know if I'll be able to, just because of all the things I'm doing with that hero section. Even this one, I'd like to be able to have consistent paddings on mobile in these sort of contained cards, but I don't think I'll be able to. Like, I may have to just add another class. This is partners. Yeah. Yeah, it is what it is. I'll come back to it if there's a better way to do it. Now I'm messing this up, man. Yep, now we're not going to have a seamless loop. So let me undo that and redo whatever I just undid. Okay, this is where I want my paddings to be. So I'll do 2em and 2em. Alright, that should be okay. And I think then I can add some bottom padding here. And then something isn't quite adding up. It's because the height of the slider, I need to set the height using viewport width as well, since my font size is viewport width, because I want this to scale pretty seamlessly. And then something else isn't, like, what's going on here? Why aren't, oh, I must have a height defined on this overall card. I have a min height defined. I'll just set that to auto. There we go. Clear out some of that extra space. Alright. This has a combo class, so I can just move it wherever. I really liked how it was overlapping, like maybe a corner. And it has a little bit of animation applied to it. So let's see, the overflow hidden div. Okay, yeah, let me catch up on some of these questions, guys. Sorry, I got sidetracked on this right now. Alright, overflow hidden div. Basically, it's just a div on the site that holds all my content, and it's 100% width, and the overflow is set to hidden. So basically what that's going to do is I can position, like, say, this circle off to the side of the screen, and now I won't have this horizontal scroll that we see a lot of times, because this div is like cropping off everything that's not 100% width of my screen. And it's good to use 100% width, not 100 VW, because VW doesn't account for scroll bars, so it'll cause that horizontal scroll anyway. So definitely use 100% for your width, and then overflow hidden, and then just wrap everything, like put everything inside that div, and it just helps with that. The text scroll using the CMS collection custom code or using interactions. Oh, I think we answered that question. So it is using custom code. I'm just using the CMS to pull these texts dynamically. I think that's good there. So then here, again, I'm just going to stack stuff. This has a combo class of isAbout, so just set it to block for now. The width can be 100% for this container. Oof. And then I need to, this is 4.2 EM for the padding here. And then remember on this breakpoint, I actually changed that to 1.4 EM. So just making sure that these stay consistent throughout is pretty important. And then even this, let's see, why isn't this spanning? Oh, because this has a width, which I'm gonna leave here. It has a width of 89%, but, and that even looks good there, but here it gets to be too much. I'll just switch it to 100%. This is getting, oh my goodness, so squished on this breakpoint. Was it getting squished on these? Let's see. No, it just made it on those. So what I can do is stack it just like that, and that works there. Let me go back over here. This is all looking great. Even at the smallest size, yep, still good. Here it definitely breaks, so I'm gonna have to display block and then apply flex horizontal, center left, and then these, man, what is happening? Okay, I just need some BioLink. Okay, need some margin going on right there. Do they have a, they're in a, this div needs 100% width, and I can add some bottom padding of EM. Alright, that's better, I think. Yeah. And then this is another mess that we get to sort out. So the footer top, first thing I'll do is set that to block. These are, what's going on here? Like, it seems like these should be stacking. Oh, I have these wrapped in something, which is cool. I may take the footer link and set these to breaking none, which I should have did on desktop. Breaking no wrap. That way, yeah, we get some nice clean stuff happening there. What's going on here? I have a width set. So was the width breaking here? Oof. Okay. Yeah, this was breaking. I got ahead of myself here. Let me set this to block on this breakpoint then, and set this to 100% width of its parent. These are good, so everything I just did here I didn't really need to do here, because I'm doing it on the higher breakpoint. So then the whole subscribe, which is this guy, I can add some padding just to give it some space from all the links. And this stuff all still looks good, so that's encouraging. Here, things are definitely getting cut, like that form field. And then this is very close. So what I'm gonna have to do is rework this form field on this breakpoint to block, and man, this is gonna kind of mess up my styling some, but that's okay. I think what I'm gonna have to do is I'm gonna remove the border here, 0 pixels, and I'll add it to these 2 pixels, and then 100 viewport width, and increase some padding here, which actually I learned you're not supposed to quite do that because it could cause issues on some browsers. So you're supposed to set a height instead, which that is insane. Alright, cool, that's better. And then just add some bottom margin to these fields, and then I'll even make the width of this be 100% on this breakpoint. And then I'll get that little arrow a little bit closer to the link. Alright, that's pretty good. Oof, that arrow isn't really scaling the way I want it to scale. I may just anchor it here. Like, I don't know, that may look dumb. Let's see. Yeah, it's not I could hide it altogether, but I think I'll just leave it for now, and I'll see what happens. This has that little bit of gray border from desktop on that side, so I just need to make sure to set that back to this color. We're kind of fixing that. This all okay, and then also I really shouldn't have a height set here, so max height will be none, height will be auto, and that should fix that issue of it not working right. Then here I want to grab these, display block, and that looks good. And then here display block as well, and I think I'll center align these. So wait up, I'll do flex vertical, that way it's all centered. Text align needs to be centered, and usually you want the copyright to be, well, copyright's fine there. I was gonna put it last, but I think the credit should probably be last in this case. And then the padding inside these, that's looking good, I think. So that should do the trick. That's working. We got lots of links on this breakpoint, but it's all good. It's just part of it. These gradients are kind of doing something interesting. I might shape them up differently, but we'll see. This text is actually underneath the gradient, which honestly I don't mind it. It's kind of cool looking, this scrolling text, so I think I'll leave that. And then I might move this one over just a bit, like I don't want it going too far over. We're having issues here. Let's see. So I think this is my H2s. Up until this point it was working fine, and then once we hit here it kind of fell apart. So I think I'll use viewport width for my paddings here, just to keep it scalable. And then my H2s I may even switch to viewport width as well on this breakpoint, and a little bit smaller, something like that. And then these should have been display block here, and then this would be 0 EM and 2 EM, something like that. That's better, I think. Honestly, this module might look cool if I just center align and center align everything inside it. What's going on here? Let me center align that. Yeah, I like that. I think that could work. Alright, let's just make sure everything is good, because there's been a lot going on. That link up top, I'm gonna have to fix that some sort of way, like the nav menu. This, oof, I did have that for a reason. Okay, let's duplicate and remove, and this is display. I'm gonna have to increase either the line height, or I can just add some bottom padding, which I think that's what I'll do in this case, just to keep my line height but keep that text from getting cut off. Delete that. That works. Cool. This is way too tall, I think, on this size. Up until this point it was also too tall. Okay. Hero photo. Hero image is, no. Where is the height being defined? Hero image contain. Alright, so what I could do is set the height using viewport width, and that way it's just gonna lock in and scale like a unit. So it's going to, yeah, just kind of scale like that. So we're not like losing people's faces and stuff on different sizes. Here I may need to increase the size. Let's see. Yeah, that's gonna look dumb because, well, it could work. Alright, let's see. Yeah, it could work. So I'm gonna have to move these over, which these are, I don't think they're affecting anything else class-wise. Yeah, that's gonna have to come over. That can come up and over maybe a little. That is fine as is. Should be. Let me see. Let me make sure that it's not gonna. Yeah, it goes underneath my text. Good. I just wanted to make sure when it's animated, it doesn't hurt anything. This hero button. And you should put your video on the other side so it won't block the settings. Oh, thanks, man. Great. Let's see. Okay, cool. Thanks. So let's see. I may reduce some of that right here. Some of that margin. Actually, I don't think I'm even going to be able to keep this overlap. It's going to look dumb. So what I'll do is just add some margin. So it's just not going to overlap the photo on this breakpoint, just because there's too much going on. Alright, that is okay. Still got to fix the nav bar. This is looking not great. The shapes are really where it's starting to fall apart, I think. So I may need to make the scale viewport width, which I could do if I set their font size. So this right here is why I love EMs, because instead of having to set the width, the height, and all the margins to viewport width and changing all that, all I had to do is change the font size. And now look, it's margin scale, it's width scales, the whole thing scales, and I'm not having to change all these values. So it's really easy to switch between unit types, and it just makes life so much easier. So now these shapes should just shrink. Yes, awesome. Alright, this is still good, this is all good, that's all good. I may add a little bit of margin here so it's not touching, and then this just looks like a lot. What's going on here? Oh, no? How is the height of this container being defined? Because I'm not... Oh, this has... Did I really have that much margin at one point? I mean padding? I might have. This is still good. What about really small sizes? It gets tight, but this is usually where I stop, breakpoint wise. Even then it's too tight, so I think what I'm gonna have to do is stack this. And this is another container that I think I'm just gonna center line everything, which means this will be vertical, center, and this will be center as well. EMs for the size. I don't know if I liked this. I guess I needed that much padding when they weren't stacked side by side. I don't know. Like I'm definitely making some adjustments. These are gonna have to be just a div block. That way these are both inline, so that way when the size gets too small, they should just stack underneath each other. They're not though. What am I doing wrong? Let's do inline block. There we go. Okay. And then this should be wrapping. Breaking normal. I think what I could do that would help is make the margin, the padding inside this container viewport width. That's gonna help this not get like too tight too quickly. And then here it looks fine. I'm gonna be okay with that. We'll just call it good. That works. This all works. These are, again, the shapes are large, so I may do that same thing. I did it to keep things consistent. I did it here, so it could be a little larger, like 3. So 3 viewport width, 2.5. Just eyeballing it. Yep, it's okay. It works. Yeah, we're good. Then this is where I want to start scaling things. So again, this is all really getting really tight. Let's see what I can do. This nav elements is separate from nav menu. So if I want it to, is this overflow hidden? No, it's not. I could easily take the nav elements and do viewport width for the size. And now that just scales down pretty close to seamlessly. Yeah, that way it's kind of locking in and not getting cut off. That all looks good. I think we have a home page that is responsive. It's working. There was quite a few pieces that gave me a little bit of trouble, I have to say, but overall, I think it seems to be working pretty well. Scaling across different sizes and stuff. I'll go ahead and publish this, and I think that's where I'm gonna end it for tonight, guys. So thanks for hanging out with me. This was super fun. I hope you've learned something. If not, I hope you at least just was amused by my ramblings and talking to myself-ish. Definitely subscribe, so that way you'll see more of my tutorial style videos, and then I'll catch you in the next video. See you later, guys. Have a good night.